Good evening and welcome. My name is Susie Brady. I'm the Fire Information Officer for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, one of the PIOs assigned to the Monument Incident. This is your virtual meeting for August 21st, 2021. This evening's community meeting will consist of presentations from multiple agencies to answer your questions and concerns you may have. This meeting is being conducted virtually due to COVID precautions that are in place. With that, we ask you to please ask us your questions. We are here for you. As I begin, I want to start off with providing you some context as to where we are today with the fire situations in the state of California. Currently, we have 13 major wildfires that are actively burning from the Oregon-California border to California-Mexico border, with over 1.5 million acres to date that have burned. Roughly 12,000 firefighters are actively engaged in the firefight from local, state, and federal. Roughly 951 engines are assigned statewide. The Monument Fire is under unified command structure with CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service. CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 is representing the CAL FIRE Shasta Trinity Unit. Alaska Incident Management Team is representing the Shasta Trinity National Forest. The current Monument Fire update. Currently, the fire sits at 1,045 acres, 145,357 acres, and 16% contained. We roughly have over 17,000 firefighters assigned to this incident. Still, we have effective over 10,000 residents and community members that are out of their houses due to these wildland fires, and 12 residents have been destroyed. And now we would like to provide you the current update, and we'll start with the South Zone CAL FIRE Incident Management, Alaska Incident Management Team's Karen Schroll.
All right, thank you. Karen Scholl, Alaska Incident Management Team for the North Zone of the fire. Just go around the horn with what's been happening out there and what things look like. So I'll start over in Division A and just go around the clockwise around. So in Division Alpha, things are really looking good as far as fire behavior and our control line, all the way from Coral Bottoms down and across to the Underwood area. This is along the intertie. Fire behavior is minimal over here, and we've had black line in for a couple of days. We're increasing our depth of our mop-up every day, but basically it's in an active patrol mode, meaning we're constantly kind of paying attention to it and looking for any problem areas. As we get up around Underwood and points north, everything is looking good along that stretch of real estate as well. Mostly a monitor around the corner here, as we've got some concerns there and have difficulty putting people in. We've been looking at the fire behavior using our drones with the IR capability, and everything is holding in this corner. Burnt Ranch area, things are looking good. We get into the Bell Flat up in the New River country. We've had a couple of issues up there over the last 2 days. We had a spot fire yesterday, went for 50 acres in the Bell Flats area. Today we had another spot across. It's about 20 by 20. We were able to pick it up. Not a lot of visibility in there as far as for aircraft support, but we do have a contingency of engines down in there, as well as some individual resources, a small squad keeping an eye on things and actively getting line around and mopping up those two spot fires. Up in the, for contingency alternate primary lines, up near Hawkins Bar and Trinity Village, you should have seen probably an influx of some equipment that we're getting up onto the Hoboken Ridge and starting to push dozer lines along the ridge and a few check lines up on top. So that's happening in that area. We also have some folks out on foot and in the community looking and sizing up residents and what would be needed to protect those residents if we get fire into that area. So quite a bit of activity going on here, but we are continuing to try and maintain the fire to the south of the New River to the best degree that we can with the conditions that we've been given. everything across the top. The fire's not moving very much to the north, and we just continue to monitor that as that goes up into the wilderness. So not a ton of movement, but it is active, and the infrared imagery does show that it is still hot. Over north of Helena, up on the North Fork and on the East Fork Road. Let's start with the East Fork Road. Prep continues along the road. We're up in the Hobo Gulch Road now. We're snagging, which means we're cutting down the dead trees and down trees, or dead trees, removing that fuel, get it out of the way, gives our firefighters a better chance to hold things if we don't have trees that can throw spots. So brushing and snagging that road, and all the way up towards the Ross station up at the end of Hobo Gulch. In the North Fork hasn't moved. The fire's been pretty stationary here. It's back down to the North Fork River. We did have 2 spots a couple of days ago, and both those spots are looking good. They're holding in place. We've been able to walk people in, scratch some line around it, and then also with our IR, we're able to keep eyes on it, and it has not moved. There is heat along that leading edge on the north end, but things are holding in place now, but that is under the capped skies that we've been having due to the smoke. So when this lifts and we get some ventilation, we'll see what kind of activity we get out of that. But for right now, not much we can do in there, but everything is holding and has not wanted to move across at this time. Additionally, we're improving dozer lines. We're scouting and developing plans in conjunction with CAL FIRE for the protection of Weaverville, putting in additional dozer lines, and then coming up with a plan as it steps across into the northeast. So that is ongoing projects there. And then down on our south part of the fire, what we're calling the south part of our side, we are continuing with dozer lines, picking ridges, finding best access to get into some ridges and lines coming across from our tie-in point with CAL FIRE, bringing it across, and then up to Pattison Ridge. In the hay press area, the fire is holding. It's south of the ridge, and so what's happening there is the firefighters are just keeping up with it. We've got check line and dozer line across the ridge. We've got check lines coming down these minor ridges, and as the fire wants to progress, we're just keeping up with it. We've got hose lay in here, and we've got this masticated about a third of the way across the ridge. The dozer line down the Pattison Peak Trail is nearly complete. We sent 3 dozers down there today. One's made it to the bottom, the other 2 about 2/3 of the way down, and they'll turn around and come back out through the top. And so continuing with that, tomorrow we'll be continuing to push dozers down and past the Hudson Road and making our box as it comes down into more favorable terrain down at the lower, as it comes out of the mountains there. Over on High and Palm, we do have plans for that. We've got people out there scouting and developing plans around High and Palm. We've also identified Bar 717. We're doing some work around there for use as a potential spike for us, as well as for the protection of that area. So pretty good day today. In the last couple of days, we do have a little, like I said, a little smoke sitting over us, so we're not getting that big, good ventilation. We were able to run aircraft to support the firefighters in the hay press area today, but that was really the only place we could fly helicopters.
Thank you, Karen. Next, we'll have the South Operations Section Chief from CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, Jim Hudson.
Well, good evening. For the south zone, we saw similar conditions today with the smoke layer, and the fire activity did moderate quite a bit. Beginning in Junction City, fire activity has been very mild in that area for the last 24 hours. We've continued to reinforce our control lines that were placed previous operational periods before, about 72 hours ago, performing tactical patrol in that area, falling hazard trees, and trying to render that community as safe as possible. As we move down towards the south, our primary objective has been to hold Dutch Creek, and that we've been successful with that so far. The fire is about midway down the slope in the Dutch Creek area, which is problematic for fire attack. We have been slowly bringing the fire down the hill, and it basically under our terms to make sure that it doesn't make a hard run and get across Dutch Creek. We're also going direct as possible, which means that we are working along the fire's edge to extinguish as we go, build control lines, and we're continuing that to the south into the Evans Bar area with, like I said, with the goal of keeping it, and our primary focus of keeping it to the west of Dutch Creek. Just to the basically west of Douglas City on this little knob of the fire down here, that is our priority right now. Yesterday we had a spot fire that came over the control line. We're estimating that it's spotted about 3/4 of a mile out ahead of itself. Crews basically redeployed to that area and re-engaged and started to ring that area. They're continuing to do that through this operational period. They're about around 75% of that spot, and as well as it has been able to basically become part of the main body of the fire and burn towards itself. So that's been our focus today, is getting that spot rung to make sure that it does not get across Maxwell Creek. So on the eastern flank of the fire, our focus has been to hold Dutch Creek, Maxwell Creek. Down here, we've been inserting crews off Maxwell Creek Road, just to the northeast of Hayfork. They've been working up Maxwell Creek Road and been working to the north and then to the west. And what that's allowed us to do is the spot fire down here. They've been slowly allowing those to burn together in a controlled fashion. And that has allowed us to be able to build a large contingency line around the southern edge of that spot, paralleling Highway 3, and then turning back up into the main body of the fire. We're also working in that area to go as direct as possible. There's some very steep canyons in there where we can utilize dozers we have, and we're attempting to the best of our ability. It is a little bit slow going due to the terrain, is get hand crews in there to cut it out with hand tools. As we move into the Hayfork area, I reported to you, I believe about 3 days ago now, that this was our primary focus, was protecting Hayfork under that north wind event we had. We were successful in doing that and checking it up in places. The fire came down to the toe of the slope into the Hayfork Valley, which has allowed us to go direct, meaning working along the fire's edge. We've inserted dozers 2 days ago and went east and west right out of the center of Hayfork, and they've continued line towards the zone break that Karen referenced and working back towards the this pocket of unburned fuel right here. So currently we have that dozer line in place. We're going to continue to reinforce it. And we're also putting hose in there, what we call plumbing it, so firefighters can extinguish and begin to mop in. Today, we were able to insert dozers just to the northwest of Hayfork to work the ridge back up towards that left flank, and they're scouting it. And that'll give us a nice little barrier and check line for this fire while we continue to build dozer line in coordination with the Alaska team in the north zone to box off this entire area to the southwest side of the fire. Throughout the entirety of the fire, we have established a contingency group of equipment and fire line leadership. They are primarily working east on the eastern side of the fire between Weaverville and Douglas City, establishing alternate line that can be utilized in the future, as well as identifying and establishing areas that we can anchor and begin to build contingency line, utilizing SPI road systems if necessary and the ridge systems and road systems that are already existing. So all in all, fire activity was, with the smoke conditions today, subsided. We were able to make some considerable gains, but we are very aware that this fire has spotted long distances, and we're preparing to do that should the weather conditions change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next, we'll bring CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5's Fire Behavior Analyst, Troy Valine.
Good evening, Troy Valine with Fire Behavior. So the weather and the situation that's been moderating the fire behavior over the last couple of days is that after Tuesday's wind event, we started to get a north-northeast flow, and that allowed smoke from the river complex as well as smoke over the Monument Fire to just settle into the area, and it hasn't been able to get out. So there hasn't been a wind system capable of getting this smoke off of the fire. So basically it's choked out. Just like it's hard for you folks to breathe out there in this area, it's difficult for the fire to get ventilated and start moving. So that is an advantage for firefighters. There hasn't been a lot of growth each day on the fire due to that. So very low intensity, primarily backing and flanking fire within these deep drainages. It's very steep country out there. And once you get off of the ridge tops, you lose almost all wind when we have this kind of smoke sitting on top of us. Over the next several days, we expect a continuation of this. Today, we should have seen the highest wind possible to try and move some of this smoke out, and it was unable to do so. So over the next several days, we don't expect there to be a wind strong enough to do that again. So we're going to basically over the next 3 days continue to see a moderated fire behavior on all areas of the fire. So on the north zone, fire growth tends to be up to the north within these drainages, and in the south zone it's to the south and southeast. So like we were talking about here just a minute ago, this has transitioned out of the timber into lighter fuels in the bottom towards hay fork. And that low intensity and that fuels transition has allowed firefighters to go in and go direct on a lot of this. The fuels and the condition, right? So a little bit of setup here is we're in an extreme drought. We haven't had rain in the area. The last rain was in April in Hay Fork. So for the average rain year in Hay Fork, we're looking at 33 inches, and we're right about 16 inches as we looked at it today. So very dry, very critically dry fuels. So some of the size classes that we use to describe fire behavior to the firefighters going out on the line, we do that in size classes. So a 100-hour fuel is something that we would consider something that carries fuel across the landscape and is a measurement of fire intensity. So a 2x4 would be roughly the same amount of mass. So a 2x4 that you get out of Home Depot or Lowe's kiln dried is between 14 and 19% fuel moisture. The equivalent out there right now in that size class fuel is between 5 and 7. So it's extremely dry. All of the fuels out there are in play, and we've got a lot of potential for spot fires. And that's been a major driver for fire growth, is when we do get the smoke to lift off, the sun hits the ground, we warm things up, it spots out ahead, and then it comes back in towards the main fire. And that's going to be, like I said, the moderation over the next several days should give operations quite a bit of room to get in here and start getting direct wherever they can.
Thanks, Troy. I'd like to bring up the Deputy Forest Supervisor from the Shasta Trinity National Forest, Carrie Otto.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your time with us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about being normal. So you may ask yourself, what does the woman who has a hot pink band around her wrist know about being normal? Not a whole lot, but here's what I do know. So it's a Saturday night, and I'm going to guess that you and I and everybody else would much rather be spending their evening on a date with one of their loved ones. That would be normal. I'm going to guess that most of you who are under an evacuation warning or order would really like that lifted at some point in time. That would be normal. We would all love a little bit of rain. That would be really normal at some point, and that would really help the fires. I know our firefighters and our fire behaviorists and our planners would all love to see normal fire behavior and normal fuels conditions. That would be normal, and that would make things go better. We would all love full and free access to our forests and to our open spaces. That would make things feel more normal. Me, I would love to be out exploring all of these gorgeous places around here. That would feel normal. We're not there yet, but as you've heard this evening, we are making some really good progress moving in that direction. And I am grateful every day for the partnerships that we have that help make that happen. So whether it's the firefighters, whether it's our fire planners, whether it's our law enforcement professionals from the county or from CHP, thank you for your help in making this happen and moving us toward that goal. And so for our community, we are working closely with law enforcement each and every day, and with our planners and with CAL FIRE, to ensure that we are really looking hard at when can we return to normal, when can we get you back into your homes safely. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your participation. Please get your questions in there. We would love to answer them and engage with you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Carrie. Next, we'll have CAL FIRE Shasta Trinity Unit Chief Brett Gavea.
Good evening, Brett Gavea, Unit Chief, Shasta Trinity Unit, CAL FIRE. I know a lot of you are sitting in your homes tonight. Some of you are not, and we are very sorry for that. We have a difficult spot in the state right now with what's going on. I mean, we have major fires surrounding this entire area, and what that brings is a lack of resources, limited resources, I should say. So I want to start by saying that the folks in Trinity County, this is nothing new for you. Fire history is something that you've lived with over there. And what we're seeing over there this year, though, is a little bit different. We have fire in areas over there that have very little fire history in them. And we're seeing some conditions and fuel conditions, as you heard from our F-band, that we have not seen before. So again, from my perspective, with the amount of resources that are on this fire, I could not ask for anything better than the cooperation that we have with our partners, with the Forest Service, but especially from the two teams that are running this fire. They are working hand in hand and doing miraculous work with the amount of resources that they have. They literally have maybe a quarter of the resources that they need to do the job. So things are a little bit slower going, but there is some amazing work going on up there. There's some black line getting put in place where we absolutely need it. And each and every one of the communities that surround this fire, which there's a lot, are number one priority to us. So, you know, our priority is to get you back into your homes, to get you feeling safe. Those of you that are still in your homes, make sure we're getting you good information, and we bring an end to this as quickly as we can. We will be with you here till the end, until we can do that, and hopefully we'll see better results as the days go on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. For closing comments, we'll bring up our Unified Incident Commanders from Alaska Incident Management Team, Norm McDonald, and CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, Mike Parks.
All right, thanks, Susie. All right, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. Norm McDonald, Incident Commander with the Alaska team. So this is day 5 for us on this incident. But we've been tracking along the Northern California situation and really the West Coast situation just for the last month and a half. You guys have really been in this extreme fire behavior, extreme situation. A couple weeks ago, we were up in Oregon on the bootleg fire, and a lot of the same things in that community that you're dealing with right now: evacuations, people away from their homes, families split up. So I just want to let you folks know that we're doing everything we can with our team and working with Mike and his team with CAL FIRE Team 5 to get things back to as our Forest Service rep said, as normal as possible, back to what is normal. And we know that's going to take some time. Just a couple of things I'll point out before I turn it over to Chief Parks is, we've got the northern part of this fire. We've got a lot of good work that went in here with CAL 5 before us, a place for us to dive into and continue that operation. But there's a lot of work that's going to need to go on for our stay and the next team as well. So the one thing we focus on is the safety of our firefighter, putting our limited resources where they're going to do the most good. Every day I'm coordinating with Mike and his team and our operations folks. We're making sure we're putting the people we have, those limited resources, in the right place, the right time. right people in there to do the best job that we can. As was said, there's a lot of really good coordination going on. I'm really proud to be saying I'm part of this unified command with Cal Fire Team 5 and the Alaska team, and I hope that carries over to the work you're seeing out there on the line. The other thing I'll just mention is, we focus a lot on our fire and our two zones. Today, or the last couple of days, we've been reaching out to our fires to the north. This is the river complex. It's becoming very clear that neither one of these fires is going to go away anytime soon. So what we're looking is we look at that long-term strategy, starting that communication process, how we're going to work together not only on our fire but with that fire to make sure we're thinking of the long-term effects of what this situation might look like. And part of that is the communication piece. So I think in the future what you're going to see is some more joint communication, not only from our fire but the surrounding fires as well, realizing there's a lot of need for information. You're affected by all of these fires in the vicinity, and we're doing that with our cooperators as well. Every day we meet with the power companies, the sheriff's office, the highway patrol. So those coordinations are happening at our level, and also more of a regional look as well. So if there's anything we can do to provide you better information, get you what you need, please reach out. I know there's some lines you can call into. We've got Cale Casey and Sam, our two public information officers, available anytime to take calls, and we'll try to assist you with what you need as far as information or getting you the product you're looking for. So thanks.
Good evening. My name is Mike Parks. I'm one of the incident commanders for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5, overseeing the south zone of the Monument Fire. I'll keep this brief so we can get to your questions. Just a couple of things. I just want to reiterate some of the points that were made tonight. To put in perspective, our neighbors and our partners that are working the fires, the Dixie Fire over to our east, they are getting fires popping back up and what we call spot fires literally 6 to 7 days after they have left the line. Line's cold, mopped up, moved on. And because of the nature of the fuels and the nature of the ember cast and the weather and the fuels, to say it again, they're getting fires popping back up 5 to 7 days after they believe that they've mopped it all up. As late as yesterday evening, the wind came up, not very strong, but the wind came up moderately, and literally within a half an hour after the wind came up, we had spot fires out a mile past the fire's edge. So that is how quickly things can change around here. So while the smoke and the lids on the fire currently, it's not going to take much at all to get it to pick back up and make a significant run. We have to remember this fire did not get to be 140,000 acres by no action. It's because of the fuels and the weather that's out there currently, and it's not going to take much to get that back. So we need to be patient. I've said that the other night, and I have to reiterate it. With the fuels being so receptive, and the fire being and the fire environment being so extreme these days, coupled with the fact that we are drastically understaffed with resources through nobody's fault, just because of the multiple fires in the state, it's going to take us a while to get this mopped up and get to a point where we can turn it back over. So normally on a legacy fire, if we were the only fire in town or one of a few fires in the state, not this large, we would have many more resources, and this would be getting wrapped up much more quickly had we, when the conditions allowed. Currently, the conditions are there. We don't have quite the number of resources we need to get around as quick as we'd like to. So please bear with us. We're working as hard as we can, as fast as we can. We want to button this thing up as quick as we can too, because the bigger it gets, the longer we are committed away from our homes and day jobs as well. So we're working hard for you. We hope to get it done as quickly as you can. But again, please recognize the conditions that are out there, both with our staffing and with the fire environment. So thank you for your patience at this point. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiefs. That concludes our presentation portion of the community meeting. We will answer any questions that you have, so please post them online. We hope this has been very informational for you. If it has not, please give us feedback so we can make sure that we're answering your questions. The phone numbers will appear at the bottom of the screen. Those are our fire information lines for the south and the north zone. So now we will take questions from the online viewers.
Are evacuation orders being lifted? Who should they contact or go for shelter resources?
So the question was, have evacuations been lifted? At this time, no evacuations have been lifted. And if you call the fire information lines, we can make sure that we can get you the shelter information, phone numbers and locations.
Is there a number to reach for Trinity OES in Weaverville that does not just keep ringing?
I believe we have OES on the line with us. Would you like to answer that? We'll make sure that we can get you that information. Next question.
Is there a timeline for reopening Red Hill Road and Canyon Creek Road, and has there been structure loss there?
Operations?
As far as structure loss, our damage inspection teams have been out in the area, and they are working with the county government, obviously. As far as road closures, they are all still in place. It's I know you might not see high intensity fire in that area, but they are in drainages many of the times that there's potential for fire to get up and run. We need to, have a plan for evacuations, and then as we get closer to the fire, there's, we deal with trees down across the roadways that need to be cleared. We're working with the roads departments, we're working with CHP, we're working with Caltrans, and we will open those up as soon as it is safe to do so.
Next question.
How far is the fire really from Weaverville and Douglas City? The news outlets are reporting that they're way different numbers than others.
Operations?
So looking at the fire's perimeter right here, if you look from north to south, the fire's about 12 miles wide. So from Weaverville, we're looking air miles really right here, 7 to 8 miles. And then for Douglas City, probably 6 miles or so. But like I said, fire activity did moderate today, and we are making some gains along the line. But those drainages align to burn towards those areas. We're very aware of that. We're keeping our eye on Oregon Mountain. Good chance for a fire to slop over the hill there and make a run into Weaverville. Not saying that's going to happen, but those are all the things that go into our thought process. But the current fire perimeter, like I said, we are currently and adamantly working to hold Dutch Creek west of the Trinity River and Maxwell Creek Road as you come up Highway 3 out of the intersection there.
Next question.
Evans Bar Road has multiple private residents that are only accessible by boat. Has anyone been over there and assessed for structure protection on the east side of the river?
We'll turn that to operations as well.
We have been patrolling those areas. The fire has not reached the east side of Evans Bar yet. No reports of structure loss in there. Our efforts, like I said, though, have been to hold the fire west of the Trinity River, west of Dutch Creek, and continue to do so, but no reports of structure loss.
Next question, please.
Can the military be called to help, and if so, why haven't they been?
Chief Parks will answer that.
We have National Guard has been activated in the state. We have multiple ground troops, out there cutting line as well, and then we also have other support logistical assets in place as well. This particular fire has logistical assets. Other fires have some of the ground troops. I believe, and I'm looking to my partner Norm, that the federal military has been activated as well, or at least authorization given. I'm not sure on the Forest Service side. Yes, okay, I'm getting a nod from my partners in the Forest Service that active military, or what we call the federal military, has been activated as well. I can't give you a status to their how many or where they are, but I know the Guard has been activated in California for the multiple fires in the north half of the state.
Next question.
Has there been any structure loss in Hayfork, and is there any updates for Brady Road?
So structure loss is something that we have to be very cautious with, and we generally are a little slow to release those numbers because we want to make absolutely sure that when we give those numbers out, they're valid. So we have what we call damage assessment teams or damage inspection teams out there currently in the South Zone as we speak, working with Trinity County to validate and confirm the property that's the properties that have been damaged and or destroyed or that are still there. There's a lot of criteria that goes into this. What constitutes a structure, a shed, a garage is strictly a residence. So there are some criteria that actually make up what when we say a structure is lost or damaged, what that actually is. And then when we are done counting, or when we are done assisting the county with counting and tabulating that data, we get that over to the county for actual dissemination by them. Different counties disseminate the information different ways. Trinity County has been working hand in hand with us, and in fact, we'll be out there again side by side with them tomorrow to work on a plan to get that information out. So we don't have an actual count yet, again, for number of structures on a given road or which structures on a given road, because again, we're trying to work that through the county to make sure that the information is completely valid before we send it out. So again, that'll be coming from Trinity County, within when they're ready to put it out. But I would anticipate it will be fairly shortly because the counting is just about finished up.
Thank you, Chief. To go back for the OES question, what phone number can they call? We did have OES Trinity let us know. The phone number you can call to reach them is area code 530-623-116. Next question, please.
What exactly does your objective, keep the fire west of 3 and north of 36, indicate? Are you planning for the fire to burn all the way to south to 36?
So when it comes to establishing control objectives on a fire, we look very big picture, or what we might refer to in the fire service as big box. And those are objectives that we believe and have strong confidence that are obtainable. Our goal is always to exceed those control objectives, those north, south, east, and west boundaries. We've seen a lot of different weather conditions and shifts on this fire. When we came into this fire on Monday night, we were expecting a hard north wind that was pushing due south. And with the spot fires we're seeing, is it possible for it to go to Highway 36? It absolutely was. So we think for big picture and worst case scenario, really. And a worst case scenario that we can manage and really look at objectively to see if it's obtainable. And all of our objectives are always measurable and have to be obtainable before we set them. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the worst case or it's going to happen, but we plan for it. We don't hunt for squirrels, we hunt for lions and look at the big picture. So.
Next question.
What is the contingency for the fire crossing the New River?
So in the New River area, we've got dozer lines being established up off of Hoboken Ridge and bringing them down. We've also got some check lines up off the ridge, and then we are backing off into just on the east side of Trinity Village and Hawkins Bar, and looking for opportunities to put control lines in there, as well as prep the structures in those communities.
Next question.
When is the earliest Alaska team is considering proceeding with the burn to bring fire to that High Pem Road?
So the High Pem Road coming across out of the zone break is one option that we have to utilize as a control feature. We're not planning on doing any kind of large-scale burning. The main fire right now is in this hay press area south of the Pattison Ridge. And as that fire moves across, right now all we're doing is trying to keep even with it. And we keep even with it so it does not outflank us, meaning it would outrun where our forces are across that ridge right now and come around, and then we'd have to come up with a new plan and provide additional lines further to the west. So we're not planning on any large-scale firing. Our plan right now is just to keep up with the main fire while we get all our lines in. and then we'll see where we're at. We can't say for sure that where we'll be at in a week, but it's going to take a while under the current conditions for this main fire just to work its way towards the west, and there may be other opportunities to do something in there, but there's no plans right now to burn off the High and Pam Road. It is an alternate line for us as we build our main line. Our primary line is a little bit below that, coming across the N07 up to the N08 road and tying in at the bottom of the cutoff. So that's kind of the preferred box for us. It has better terrain features for us to be able to hold, but we will be looking at the High and Pam Road, depending on conditions, as another way to hold the line. So yeah, no intent right now for a big scale burn. It's going to take us multiple shifts before we're even ready to consider something like that.
Thank you. Next question.
The Soldier Creek back burning is getting pretty hot. Can you tell us how this is going on for this evening? Soldier Creek is in by Junction City, and is there any structure loss?
Operations?
Yeah, so in that area of the fire, we haven't done any significant back burning or what we would consider significant in the fire service. We've been allowing the fire to come down the hill in a controlled manner and using low intensity fire to connect one piece to another. It might be 100 yards, it might be a quarter mile, and we're working from the top down. Any intensity or flames that you see in that area are the main body of the fire working itself down, not doing any significant firing operations.
Next question.
How is fire in the gorge being monitored, and how secure is 299 for protecting Burnt Ranch from that? We would like a Burnt Ranch update, please.
So we have engines patrolling the 299 corridor from Helena through Big Bar, Del Loma, all the way out. So we do have patrols out there daily, keeping an eye on things. The way the fire burned, there are still pockets of unburned fuel in the corridor. So I'm not going to say that all the fire is out. However, around the communities, we have had folks in and around the communities there, and we're feeling really comfortable, fairly confident on the safety of those structures in there. However, we're not going up the sides of the hills trying to put fire out. So there are pockets of unburned fuel. There's chance for rollout to come down into some unburned ravines, and that's the type of thing that we see typically when we're dealing with river canyons. Other hazards that you could see in that area are rock falls and trees coming down because of the root systems are burnt, and then they tip over and they come sliding down the mountainside. So although the fire within the canyon may be reduced and it's burning itself out, the hazards still exist. Out in Burnt Ranch area, we're feeling comfortable with where our control lines in the Burnt Ranch. We still have folks patrolling for fire activity, but everything in Burnt Ranch right now is looking pretty good.
Thanks, Karen. Next question.
What is the status of French Gulch?
Ops?
French Gulch is well out of the fire area. I know that the river complex is west of Trinity Lake, and in order for any of this to get anywhere close, you'd have to get past the lake, get onto the ridge system, and then move further to the east over that over the Trinity Divide to get into French Gulch.
And next question.
Weather dependent, do you anticipate a full evacuation order for Hawkins Bar, Trinity Village in the next 48 hours? Hope versus reality, please.
Ops?
Looking at our weather matrix and the wind for the next couple of days, we're looking at winds out of the west, southwest, about 13 miles an hour at the ridge. And then cloud cover, as a meteorologist is telling us, it's kind of a cap on top of what we have going on. So with that, we're expecting subdued fire behavior. As long as we can continue to pick up the spot fires that are getting thrown across the New River right now, we don't anticipate any evacuation orders. However, if we get any of that breeze that comes in, that's going to be a game changer. And what that will do is throw spots that we'll be unable to catch. Right now, for the next 48 hours, I would say there's probably about a 50-50 chance that an evacuation order could be placed.
Thanks, Karen. Next question.
How far down Brady Road has the fire traveled?
So for Brady Road, crews have actually used that to insert in that area, and the fire right here, basically you can see it on the fire perimeter. We've working tirelessly to keep it out of Hayfork proper. Brady Road, I know it works interior, but if you look right here, it's we've basically been using the toe of the slope, or where the fuels transition to rolling hills. And if you look at the fire right here, if you look at a map, that's how far the fire's progressed in the Brady Road area. So as it comes out of the more steep and rugged terrain, we've had where our dozer line is, that's where we've been able to take advantage of the terrain with the amount of resources that we have.
Thanks. Are there any more questions?
Yes. Are there plans to improve forest roads from High and Palm out to the west to allow for additional evacuation routes for people who live there if High and Palm Road is impacted by the fire?
Generally, we try and increase any of our fire breaks, evacuation routes, improve any roads that we can while we're in the fire area. We try and do that every chance we get. Again, I got to remind you that we are truly understaffed. So as opportunities allow, we will absolutely open up any old roads that are allowed, whether by jurisdiction, improve any roads, improve evacuation routes, defensible space, road widening, any of those kind of things that we can do under our control that benefit the control of the fire. We will do it every chance we get. We just have to have the resources to do it. So those kind of things generally happen. If using your example of improving for an evacuation route, it'll either be done if there's an imminent threat or when the fire control has been largely completed and we're doing that on our way out the door. So we will work with the county and the local fire districts to see if that's something that we need to consider. But in the meantime, there's no immediate plans for anything other than fire suppression at this point.
I'm being told I have one last question.
Are there expectations in the future that winds could cause the fire to move east to Weaverville or Douglas City? Please address the upcoming weather conditions.
Troy?
Okay, so for the next several days, we're going to have high pressure kind of sit in. We're going to get to our normal, what would be considered normal for this time in August. So your normal flow would bring up canyon and down canyon winds through the Trinity River corridor based on daytime and nighttime heating. So your normal winds that you would see through the Trinity River corridor, they're going to be limited based on the amount of smoke that's sitting on top right now. The ground doesn't care whether it's smoke or a cloud. It just knows that it's not getting daytime heating from the sun. It's not making that air move around like it normally does. So until that smoke gets out of the way, we're not going to have a very strong wind of any kind. But just knowing that August, that is the normal wind flow, is kind of out of that west-northwest through this area, through the Trinity corridor, and as well as the Hayfork area. So those winds will continue to be out there in the forecast. You'll see them every day on our extended forecast. until we get some kind of a different event. So there may be, just like the other day, we had some northeast winds affect the fire, and that's what put all the smoke from the river complex on top of us over here on the Monument Fire. So those things will change, but the default in Trinity County is kind of that northwest flow through the Trinity River corridor.
Thank you, Troy. My apologies, I left off a number for the OES, Trinity OES phone number. I'll read it again a little bit slower. 530-623-1116. Any other questions? Okay, I see that there's no more questions, but feel free, if you think of something later, please reach out to us on our fire information lines. We are here for you to get you the answers you need. So thank you again, and have a safe night.